Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Siskind. I am the author of all these books. Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 1. I thought that was going to be playing solo jazz piano. Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, which is new and an excellent book, I think. And playing solo jazz piano. And I'm going to do one of my very favorite things with you today, which is pressing start and stop on a great recording and talking about what's going on. This is actually a recording to which there's a guided listening portion in Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2. It's Infantized by Wayne Shorter. And on this recording, Herbie Hancock plays a solo that is a total of 8 measures. But there's like so much going on in just those 8 measures that I want to share. We're going to have a ton to talk about with just those 8 measures. So I'm going to change camera views here. So here's the chart for Infantized. If you've never heard this melody, let me just show you kind of generally how it sounds. Beautiful tune, in my opinion, at least. And you're going to see that Herbie Hancock finds all these really creative ways of coloring this. Okay, so if you're following along at home, I'm going to be starting, his solo starts at about 4:40, and it starts right at the top of the form, and he's really just going to be improvising over these 8 bars, the first A section, and then Wayne Shorter is going to come back in with the melody on the bridge. For legal reasons, I'm going to resist playing the entire thing, so you can listen to the entire solo on your own. I'm just going to be starting and stopping probably just about every measure. Let's see what happens, if you like it. Whoa! Okay, so that was 2 measures. Wayne Shorter kind of fades out of the solo on the first bar, and then Herbie plays. Whoa! Those are not notes you're supposed to play over an F minor. He plays, so he uses a little passing tone, or I shouldn't call it a passing tone, it's a neighbor tone here. He plays C sharp, resolves that into D, but it creates this color. And then he looks at this F minor 7, he says, I'm not going to play the minor 7, I'm going to color it differently. And he plays an E natural here, rather than an E flat. But then the part that's really kind of nuts is that he plays, he arpeggios basically a G major triad. Okay. How does he get away with that? The honest answer is that he's Herbie freaking Hancock. But let's just think about that. Let's think about how we think about what wrong and right notes are. The bass player's playing an F. Herbie's probably playing a voicing that's something like those 3 notes, the 9th, the minor 3rd, and the 5th. And so it does leave him with the opportunity to try to create something, choose his 7th. And then to kind of superimpose this G major chord on top. I also find that this is where that C sharp gets interesting, because yes, it's resolved appropriately to the 5th of the G minor. And yet we kind of start hearing things like this D flat, C sharp half diminished chord when it combines with the other things that he plays, right? And so, even though it resolves, it triggers all of these other things. And in just about every measure here, we're going to hear this. Herbie uses some kind of an upper structure, right? If you're not familiar with the term upper structure, I've done a whole video about it, but it's basically where you play a triad or sometimes a 7th chord above a existing chord, and that's different. So an F minor chord wouldn't be an upper structure on F minor 7. That would just be, I guess, that's the lower structure, although we never call it that. It's just the chord. So here he's adding this this major 7th and then this sharp 11th, which usually isn't the case. isn't usually used. And so we hear E minor, and then we especially hear G major, these really bright colors happening. There's also, if I were doing a theory analysis, I would consider that he's using an F, like diminished or whole half octatonic scale. Because that would include it would include all the notes, the E, the G, the B, and the D. But he's playing like a normal F minor voicing, so it doesn't sound like, he's not like changing it to a diminished chord. He's just kind of implying this other triad above. What a good measure. Oh, it's so exciting. Okay, here we go. Next couple of measures. Okay, great. So he doesn't play a lot in the E flat measure, except that he's really kind of, pounding isn't the word because he's playing very elegantly, but he's really showing us that he's using an F triad on the top of that E flat major chord. And then on the A7, he really strongly arpeggiates, very clearly, a G flat triad. And if you've been listening to the whole track, you'll hear that that's not an anomaly. Every time he gets to that A7, he really emphasizes a G flat triad. And it might have been written into the chart. It might have been something that Wayne wanted. I don't really know. It's also anticipating the very next chord, right, which is a G flat major chord. So, it's not like coming out of nowhere. And so there is this like way that we could form a little alternate narrative about what's going on here. Let's just imagine with me right now. Just with what we have, we can see an E minor triad going to an F, going to a G flat. There's this like half step movement of triads. Whoa, so the upper structures are like connecting in this really interesting way. And if I, were just making a theoretical point, I could say that, well, we can't really do an E flat anything on the G minor, but we could do it like a D minor. And so that's not half step, but at least it's still moving stepwise. So now there's these like two levels of harmony going on in a certain way, or at least we could think of it that way. That we've got this upper structure harmony, and then we have the normal chords. You might call this superimposing other harmonies on top. And I think it's especially cool because the two move in contrary motion, right? At least for those first three measures, the upper structures are going up from D to E to F, and the bass line is going down. So you have this great effect. And then it really wants to go from there to A flat major. And let's see if Herbie does go to A flat major. Okay, love this measure. I do hear A flat major. People could argue, well, it's just it's just that he's really emphasizing the 13th and the 9th. But the notes, for somebody like Herbie Hancock, the notes that he emphasizes are key. That is so much of the game. But then what I love is he plays a very kind of basic thing leading into the C minor. He plays C to G to D, and then lands on a B flat. I think I'm remembering that right. But what makes it cool, first of all, it's organized in fourths, right? C to G to D. But he does it over the G flat major 7th. And then lands on the C minor 7 over F. So what do you get? You get a bunch of notes that don't really relate heavily to the chord, right? I mean, C is the sharp 11, which isn't totally crazy. G really doesn't relate to that chord. D doesn't really relate to that chord. But he's anticipating it. And it's moving at such a slow tempo that we can, like, have this moment of, oh my God, what's happening? And oh, I actually dug that. So he's creating this extra color by just playing, the root, fifth, ninth of the C minor 7 chord, and then landing on the 7th of that chord. So that's a great thing to try a bunch. Like, let me just experiment. What if I'm playing a 2-5-1? Okay, I'm playing D minor 7, nice ballad tempo to G7. Okay, and then I'm gonna put in some altered tones from the G7, but I'm gonna put them in that last beat of the D minor. So let's try, in the spirit of Herbie Hancock, let's organize them in fourths. So let's go flat 9, flat 13, sharp 9, and then I'm gonna go back to the flat 9 again, so I hit a nice colorful note. Okay, so none of those notes relate to D minor at all, right? Let's see what happens. I am actually not sure how good or bad this is gonna sound. Experiment, 1, 2. Weird, right? What if, just for argument's sake, I'm gonna use the third of the G7 chord instead. I think it'll be a little bit less weird. 1, 2. Kind of cool, right? Or let's. I like that one the best. So there, it's a little bit less, crazy against the D minor, but I'm using what I'm thinking of as the 13th and the 3rd of the dominant chord. Yes, sure, they are the 9th and the 13th of the minor chord. 2. But it forms that same kind of effect that Herbie Hancock gets here. So I think it's a really interesting thing to experiment and practice if you're looking for more mystery in your playing. All right, let's go on to these last couple of measures of the solo. Okay, so again, just like with the F minor, on the E flat minor, he uses D natural. Okay, so he's taking these minor 7th chords, and he's saying, I've got an E flat in the bass. I get to decide the rest. So maybe it's more interesting, instead of playing a minor 7th there, to play this minor major 7th sound. I think of these as like sonority-based substitutions. You can swap out, different shades of minor chord. You can swap out different shades of major chord. If you have a regular major chord, you can play a Lydian instead of a regular major chord. Especially if it's just, you and a bass player. And especially if the bass player is listening and they're not going to mess anything up. And then he outlines an E flat major 7th chord against the F minor. That's not really too revolutionary, right? That's kind of a standard thing to do, using the 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th of that F minor. But he is hitting all those most colorful notes. I forget if there's anything else in this solo, but let's find out. Cool, so over this last measure, and I'm realizing now that I lied, it's actually 9 measures, not 8. Oh well. He's again emphasizing G flat. I know it's hard to see because of the mixture of flats and sharps, but he's basically playing a G flat major triad. And he's using 4th voicings in the left hand. So, obviously in a B flat dominant chord, especially with the sharp 5, like G flat major is very present. But Herbie definitely has a way of emphasizing the upper structure or that triad, so that not only is it, technically there, but he's highlighting it, so there's this interesting interplay of brightness and darkness. Cool. I'm going to make myself a little bit bigger here. So, beautiful solo by Herbie Hancock. You can see there's just a ton going on to create this feeling of mystery within this 9-measure solo. So I would really suggest that you guys go and check out that track. It's really beautiful. It's called Infant Eyes. It's from the classic album Speak No Evil. And if you enjoyed that, you'll probably enjoy working through my books, Playing Solo Jazz Piano. Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, which is for more intermediate, late intermediate, advanced players. And then for people who are new to jazz, you got Jazz Piano Fundamentals. Thanks so much for watching and enjoying this Herbie Hancock solo with me. And I'll see y'all soon.